All right, guys. So, that time of year comes every year. No RVer or camper of any sorts, they never like to see the end of the season. Around here where I'm at right now, the next week we're going to be getting down in the 30s. We actually went camping this weekend, and it was cold. We were down in the low 40s. It was still a good weekend, but we're going to be getting into the 30s at night pretty quick, so we have to get this thing winterized. So, it's one of those things that nobody wants to see, but it comes every year and it has to be done. It's actually really simple to winterize it and do it yourself. You can take it into an RV shop and they'll do it. Most of them have pretty reasonable rates to take care of everything. But usually all they're doing is, the water side of it, because there's more to it that you're going to have to do on your own. Because they're not going to sweep everything out. They're not going to make sure all the food's gone, all that kind of thing. So, the way I see it, I'm going to save the money and do it myself. And I've done it for several years now. I seem to be doing just fine. So, just follow along with everything that we do, and your camper will be just fine as well. Because one of the big things is you have to make sure you do everything right. Because you do not want to be that guy or girl that opens up their camper come spring and there's been mice in it, or you've had a water line freeze and bust because there was still water in it, something like that. So, because all these little steps that you take are very inexpensive now, but can be very, very expensive if something goes wrong, come spring. So, like I said, as long as you follow these steps, it's not a problem. It's nice and simple and easy to do. Anyone can do it with any common sense. So there are not that many major tools required, anything like that. I'll show you how to drain the water heater. That does require a wrench, but beyond that, there's not really many tools that need to be used. But first thing, before you worry about the water and everything else, we always go through and we do a deep clean on the camper. Basically clean every cabinet out, make sure every drop of food, anything like that, I mean down to a sugar packet, a sweet and low, crumbs of any sorts, clean everything out. And like I said, we do a deep clean, all the leather for the couches and stuff like that. We use leather treatment on them. We wash all the windows. We take all of our dishes and stuff like that out and store them away in the house. That way they're not sitting out here. You may not have to do that. I mean, you could choose to leave it, but we prefer to keep everything inside. Through the winter, because we're not going to be in it anyway, so I don't see what it needs to be here. But food is one of the big things. So whenever you clean out all of your cabinets, your drawers, your cupboards, whatever they are, make sure we take and we wipe everything out, and we use a shop vac and we suck out all the little corners and everything, because as careful as we can be, we try not to get food in different places in the camper anyways. But you could always have breadcrumbs and things like that fall out, and that is just bait for mice to come. It's an invitation for them to come and live inside your camper, and you don't want that. Trust me, you do not. We had an old camper that we did get some mice into. That was our old pop-up that we had, and it's devastating when they get in there. So, get all the food out. Like I said, we shop vac everything, and we go through and we wipe everything down with Clorox, because you do not want rodents or whatever of any kind in your camper. We also use some of the little plug-in mouse deterrent kind of things. They put out a noise of some sorts. There's all kinds of little cheap ones you can get out there, but all you do is you plug that in to the outlets in here. We have a couple of them. We plug them in at both ends of the camper. It's supposed to help repel them. If it works or not, I don't know. We don't get mice in our camper. So, we keep everything sealed up as well as possible anyways, but, mice can get in anywhere. So, you get rid of all the food, and we always put those out. If you're really afraid, you can always put mouse traps out, or bait if you don't have any pets or anything like that. Bait can get a little difficult because mouse eats it, then your cat eats the mouse or something like that. You're going to end up killing your cat. So, we don't use bait. If you're really worried, you can put traps out, but if you're going to put traps in here, I would definitely recommend checking them regularly through the winter. You get a dead mouse in here that's been killed, it's going to stink, and that smell's going to be here forever. So that's why we use these things. We don't have to worry about that. But like I said, deep clean everything. We take all of our sheets and everything off the mattresses, off the beds. We clean everything, we bag it up, and we store it inside until it's time. My wife has already gone through everything and scrubbed and mopped and done everything to the camper. So it is spick and span clean now. So, like I said, that's the biggest thing, get it cleaned out. And then we have to get some antifreeze in it. That's one of the really important parts. And we just use, I have for several years now, you can get it at Walmart, you can get it at your RV place, whatever you want. Just get some RV antifreeze. Do not put regular car antifreeze in there. Get RV antifreeze. And it's good down to -50 degrees. Most areas aren't going to see that. You may be in a place where you do. So whatever it is, make sure you get the good stuff. This Walmart brand stuff, it's cheap. I think we're like $3 a gallon. And so it's way cheaper to buy extra of this stuff than it is to have to repair a water line or something crazy like that come next spring. So with ours, I buy 3 gallons every year. I probably don't need 3 gallons. It could probably be done with a lot less, but I like to run a lot of antifreeze through all my lines, make sure there are no chances of any water sitting in there. Like I said, it's like $3 a gallon. So for less than $10, I can winterize this thing and probably have some antifreeze left over. So you want to make sure all that water is left out of there. So there's a couple different steps that you have to do. We're going to go through all of those, but that's the biggest part of it, is getting the antifreeze in it. Today we're going to be working on a 2018 Jayco J-Flight. It's a 29-foot camper. You got 1 bathroom, 2 sinks, outdoor shower. And then I'll show you the water heater in a little bit. So there's not a lot of plumbing in here. I know we have some of the bigger campers where they have multiple bathrooms, multiple sinks, a whole outdoor kitchen, things like that. We don't have any of that in here. So we're fairly simple, but the processes that we use on this are the same on all of them. So if you have 3 or 4 sinks in your camper, whatever. What I do to my 2 sinks, just do the same thing to all. I don't care how many you have in there, whatever. Just do the same thing to all of them. Water heaters are going to be pretty much the same on all of them. That's one of the great things about a camper, is most of the stuff in here, the water heater, the furnaces, the refrigerator, stuff like that, there's only a couple of brands out there. So we're all dealing with about the same stuff. And like I said, if you see anything in this video that I've missed or you have questions about, hit me up in the comments. Or, if your neighbor has a camper, go ask them. That's one great thing about RVers. Usually everybody's pretty friendly when it comes to, you want to talk about your RV, because everybody always wants to talk about their camper. And, I did this to it, I did that to it, and this is what I do, and that's what I do. So, everybody loves that conversation part of it. So, there's a lot to it. So, talk to somebody, RV places, they'll usually show you what to do, things like that. So, like I said, let's get started and see what we can do. Okay, so one of the really important parts of this you have to do, which they're all important, but this is what I usually do first. Our water heater, like I said, most of them all look the same, so even if it's a different brand, they're usually pretty much the same. There's a plug down here in the bottom. I have a little wrench that I can get in there to get that loose, but you want to make sure you pull that out and let all your water drain out, because you have to make sure every bit of that water is out. If it's not, then you will definitely freeze it up and have some major issues. That plug that's in there, mine is still the plastic plug. I keep saying that I'm going to put either a ball valve in there or a steel plug in there, because that plastic one, you can see my corners are getting a little rubbed up there, so eventually that's going to strip out. So I'd highly recommend going and getting you a steel plug. Something that's not going to rust. Obviously it's going to see water, so that plastic one's going to get worn, but you want to take it out and let all your water drain out. So we got that out, we're going to start with it. Okay, while that water heater is draining out, that water heater, ours sits underneath. We have a bunkhouse model, so in the back there are a set of bunks back here. Our water heater sits underneath the bunk, so yours may be different depending on what style camper you have. But from the outside of the camper, see where your water heater's at, and then come inside and look where it would be located inside the camper. And somewhere hiding in there, there should be some valves that look something like this. I apologize, my camper is not clean. Underneath the bunk, it's where we store all kinds of stuff, and it's kind of hard to get to under here. But there's 2 valves. Flip them up. These are your water heater bypass valves. You do not want any antifreeze going into. See how that's sitting there? We're going to turn that down. So now any of that antifreeze that goes through here is going to come through, down, and back out, and nothing will go to the water heater, because you do not want to get antifreeze in your water heater. So, okay, now we've got those bypasses closed. So then over here right next to it, and you can see on the outside of the camper, there's a sticker out there that says low point drain. And that is trying to show you where this is at. There's a set of little drains on here. Turn them, and that will help any of the water drain out. So turn those, we'll just have them on for just a little bit. That way we'll get any of the water that's in these lines, we'll get them out, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I crawled out of the bunk there. While I've got those, I've got the bypass closed and the low point drains open, I'm gonna open up all the faucets. That way, any water that's in there should be allowed to drain out. So we'll let that run for a little bit and drain all the water we can get out of it. And don't forget, if you do have an outdoor shower or outdoor kitchen, you need to make sure you do this to the same thing to them. Okay, so that low point drain I was talking about earlier, usually somewhere on your camper, it'll have a little sticker like that. Up under here, there they are. That's the drains themselves. That way everything can drain out. And then, like I said, with your outdoor shower, make sure you open everything up and you let all that water run out of there. We'll have antifreeze running through everything in a little bit, but get all the water out first. Okay, so now it's time to locate your water pump and the water valve. Most of them are about the same as far as the pump and everything like that and how the valve works, but it may be located in different spots. Mine's underneath the kitchen sink. It's relatively easy to get to, so that's obviously your pump there, and there's the valve that we're talking about. Normally that hose right there goes down to your water tank underneath the floor, and that's how the pump sucks water up to the pump and then out to all your faucets and everything. And then the valve is in line there. When it's in line like that, the water's going straight through, and this tube on top's blocked off. What we're going to do is turn that valve that way. So now you're going to be open from this clear line to your pump, but not to the water tank. And that tube is actually loose in here. See, it's just a long tube that they leave hanging in there. That way we can put antifreeze in it. So once you've located that, you can take your tube and just put it down in your bucket. That way it's all the way down at the bottom. So that way, whenever that pump kicks in, and again, I guess I should say, before you do any of this, make sure your pump is turned off, but obviously you're going to know it because that pump's going to take off as soon as you close that valve. So with everything turned off, turn that valve and then put that hose into your first gallon jug there. Now, before we do all of this, like I said before, you want to make sure that we had already closed the bypass valve for the water heater, because do not put antifreeze in your water heater, because that residue will be left in there, and if you ever fire that thing up and get heat going on that antifreeze, it's going to coat the inside of that water heater and you will never get it out. So you'll be replacing a water heater. So make sure that you close those bypass valves. That way it cuts it all off, you know, from the water heater itself. So I may stick in another video at this point just to show you where those valves are at, just to make sure you get that done. So we're going to do that. And then I've also gone through, because a minute ago we opened all the faucets, that way the water could drain out. I've gone through and closed all of those, and the low point drains have also been closed. So all that stuff needs to be done before you turn the pump on. I know we've already done it once, but I just wanted to throw it in there again just to make sure everybody's clear on making sure those bypass valves are closed. You know, there, and that black one down at the bottom. That way none of the antifreeze gets to your water heater in there. And like I said, while we're in here, I always double check and make sure I have closed them. And then the low point drains, we make sure they're closed as well, because we don't want all of our antifreeze running right back out. So definitely make sure those valves are closed before you pump any antifreeze. All right, so we've got everything shut off. We have our valves turned the way they're supposed to be. We've got our first gallon of antifreeze ready in there. So get up here and we'll hit the pump button. And you can see it start pumping all that pink stuff in there. We're just going to let it go ahead and prime itself. There we go. So now everything's primed, so that pump is ready to start pumping antifreeze. So one at a time, turn on the kitchen sink. See how it instantly comes out pink? This is the closest to it, so I always do that one first. Okay, so we got plenty of pink there. Now we do the hot side. Make sure all the water is out of there until it starts going pink again. There we go. See it starting to come out? All right, we're doing all right. So there's that one. We haven't used too much yet. We still got a little bit in there. So now we're going to go to the next one. We got pink coming out the hot. Now we got it coming out the cold. Now we'll go in here and
And we'll do hot in the bathtub. And we got pink. We'll do hot or cold in the bathtub. And we got pink. And then what I always do is you take that sprayer, hold the knob up, make sure you run some out that sprayer just to be on the safe side. Okay. Again, with the sprayer, I don't know if you really have to do that, but I always do because I want to make sure everything has antifreeze in it. And then with our outdoor faucet, we're going to do the same thing. It's hard to see outside, but that is turning pink. I'll turn the other one on, make sure it goes pink. And one of the things you definitely want to do while you're out here is take this little screen out here. This is where your city water connection is. I'm going to try to stand back here so I can get it on the phone, but that little plunger that sits in there, and you have to take that little screen out first. Hit that away. You want to hit that, I got soaked. You want to hit that away, it blows antifreeze out there because you'll have pressure on it from the pump running, but you want to make sure you blow it through there because there is a water line that runs from there down inside to everything. So you don't want to take any chance in that little 6-inch piece of pipe in there, have water in it and freeze over the winter. Okay, another super important one, do not forget the toilet. Make sure you just keep blowing through there because there's a lot of little water lines in the back there and the little pump. You want to make sure there's pink everywhere. So make sure that's going through. And then after we get all done and I shut the pump off, I'm going to open that, flush that again because that pink that's sitting in there, I do not want it to stain my toilet. It's not supposed to, but we do have a little bit of discoloration on ours from where I let the pink sit in there last year, so probably want to make sure you dump that out of there.
Alright, so guys, how hard is that? As you can see, anybody can do it. You have, excuse me, I'm a little bit wet from hitting that plunger out there, but you know, anybody can do this. So it's not that hard. Just make sure you have enough antifreeze. When you start seeing that gallon jug under there get low, just swap it over to the other one. Like I said, antifreeze is cheap. The way I see it is put enough antifreeze through there so you know that there is no chance of any water sitting in there. Now that I've done each faucet all the way through, including the outside and the spigot, the plunger out there on the city water connection, I will probably go through and hit each sink again, just a little shot, just to make sure it's nothing but pink coming through there. If it's spitting and sputtering, you know, there is potential of water being in there, so just keep hitting each one until it is solid pink coming through there. No spitting and sputtering, no clear water, anything like that. You want to make sure it's pink. That's why they make the stuff pink. That way you can see it. And the other good thing is, you know, all that antifreeze you're getting in there, it's also going in your gray water and your black water tank when you flush your toilet in there with it through there. So, you know, that helps in case there's any water sitting in there. You got antifreeze there too. So, you know, but when summer gets here or spring gets here next year, we'll flush everything out of it and everything will be good to go. So it's not that hard to do. Like I said, anyone can do it. You can do it yourself very easily. You know, if you don't feel comfortable with anything you've seen here, take it to the RV dealer, you know, pay them, let somebody else do it. But like I said, for the most of us, you know, it's not that bad to do. It's very few tools. The only important things that I try to remind everybody is make sure you bypass the water heater when you put antifreeze in, because you do not want antifreeze in your water heater. So bypass that. And do not forget the city water connection outside. Make sure you hit that plunger. I'm going to go out and hit mine again 1 or 2 more times just to make sure it blows any water out of there and it's nothing but antifreeze that comes out. Also, while you're out there, like on our model, we have an outdoor shower on there. Make sure you open both valves and you get any and all water out of there, and there's antifreeze flushed through it. So the plug on the water heater, I'll leave it out all winter long, and then next spring, whenever I'll probably do a video on it when we bring the camper back up online again, I'll put the plug in then and we'll deal with it then. So I just leave it out. That way it can, if there's any water sitting in there somehow, it will just eventually all drain out. So you know, at this point, that's about it. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, make sure you hit me up in the comment box. I'm usually pretty good about getting back to everybody. So if you have any questions, just let me know. Otherwise, like and subscribe, and make sure you share with a friend and tell them you know, you saw the video. While you're there, go ahead and check out some of the other videos on the channel. I've got a lot of other stuff on there as well. So thank you and God bless.